Welcome to literary and jury charge practice. Let's get started with some jury charge practice. Ready? It is claimed by the plaintiff that this assault was willfully and maliciously made. If you find from the evidence that the assault was in fact willfully and maliciously made, then you may find a further sum of damages in favor of the plaintiff, which the law calls exemplary or punitive damages. The jury is not required to find exemplary or punitive damages in any case, but they may, in their discretion, do so if they find that the assault was maliciously made. An injury is regarded as malicious when it is done with malice in the mind of the person who does it, with ill will and wrongful feelings toward that person, that is, an intent or purpose to do that person an injury. By exemplary damages is meant damages which are intended to serve as an example to others and to deter and prevent others from committing similar acts. Such damages are also called punitive damages because they serve as a punishment to the party who committed the assault and battery. As stated before, the burden of proof rests upon the plaintiff to prove by the greater weight of the evidence that the defendant did wrongfully assault and beat the plaintiff as claimed by the plaintiff. If you find from the evidence by the greater weight thereof that the defendant did so assault and strike the plaintiff, then you will find a verdict in favor of the plaintiff for such amount as willfully and fairly compensate him for the injuries directly flowing from the alleged assault and for all damages proximately caused by defendant's wrongful acts, that is, all consequences of the injury, future as well as past, including mental suffering, indignity, disgrace, and mortification arising out of said assault, and including also pain and suffering, all expenses incurred, such as doctor bills, hospital bills, diminished capacity for work, and loss of time from work, and all other damages which are the direct proximate result of such wrongful assault. To the actual damages so found, you have the right to add such exemplary or punitive damages as you may deem just and reasonable. If you find that the plaintiff did use abusive and provocative language toward the defendant, then you have the right to consider that in mitigation of exemplary damages, but such abusive language by the plaintiff does not permit you to reduce the damages actually sustained by the plaintiff. Now for some literary practice. This is an article called "The Impact Mentoring Can Have on Court Reporting Students." Ready? As a current student, I have had the good fortune of being mentored by numerous court reporters, from officials working for the Superior Court to freelancers working for reporting firms. I have found the advice and positive reinforcement to be the most beneficial aspects of interning, given the competitive nature of court reporting. This profession has its perks, but it also has high expectations. Attaining a 95% on the Registered Professional Reporter exam and a 97.5% on the Certified Shorthand Reporter exam is a difficult and daunting task, so it helps to be surrounded by individuals who encourage you to look on the bright side. During my internship, I was privileged enough to shadow many seasoned officials, each of whom had gone out of their way to give me as much advice, knowledge, and positive reinforcement as possible. I was taught various software applications, including how to distinguish between multiple speakers as well as different software commands. We discussed different ways to stay organized and how to report during a jury selection. Many officials would spend their breaks advising me and would even take me back to their offices to meet other reporters and judges. I felt as though every court reporter I shadowed was taking me under her wing, and each of them had great advice and pieces of knowledge for me. I was so surprised by their willingness to help. I was so appreciative. It wasn't until then that I realized how important it is to have a mentor and to be among those who have gone through this process and have come out of it and achieved success. One official told me that the hardest part about being a student is that there are times when you become so discouraged and stressed that your negative thoughts often cloud your mind and affect your performance. She assured me that I was doing very well and told me the best thing to do is to stop worrying, continue to do my work, and stick with my schedule. I think of that piece of advice daily as I try to limit my stress and frustration. We'll finish that up in a bit. For now, let's get back to some jury charge. This jury charge, the subject of this jury charge is an interrogatory. Ready? Please take notice that defendant Kenneth Anderson requires that Earl Nixon, additional defendant on counterclaim, answer under oath the following interrogatories within 15 days from the date of service hereof, pursuant to Rule 33. 1. On what date was the Badger Trencher Model 303 delivered to you by defendant Kenneth Anderson? 2. When said machine was delivered to you, was it in good repair? 3. If the answer to number 2 is negative, list what repairs were necessary to place said machine in good repair. 4. If the repairs referred to in number 3 were made, list each part or item of material put on said machine, from where purchased, the cost of each item, to whom payment was made, the date of each payment, and the date each item was put on said machine. 5. If the repairs referred to in number 3 were made, list the total number of hours of labor performed on said machine, by whom the labor was performed, the amount paid, therefore, to each person so working, the dates each person worked, and the dates payment was made. 6. If the repairs referred to in number 3 were made, and if you personally worked thereon, list the dates you so worked and the number of hours each date, the nature of the work done on each date, and the agreed or reasonable value of such labor. 7. Were any repairs or improvements made on said machine subsequent to those referred to in number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6? 8. If the answer to number 7 is in the affirmative, list each item of material or part put on said machine, from where purchased, the cost of each item, to whom payment was made, the date of each payment, and the date each item was put on said machine. 9. If the answer to number 7 is in the affirmative, list the total number of hours of labor performed on said machine, by whom the labor was performed, the amount paid, therefore, to each person so working, the dates each person worked, and the dates payment was made. 10. If the answer to number 7 is in the affirmative, and if you personally worked thereon, list the dates you so worked and the number of hours each date, the nature of the work done on each date, and the agreed or reasonable value of such labor. If the answer to number 7 is in the affirmative, were such repairs or improvements made at the request of defendant Kenneth Anderson? Okay, let's get back to some literary material. Ready? Many of the freelancers who I have met have been just as supportive and encouraging. A friend of mine who works for a reporting firm is always there for me when I have a question or a concern. If I text her a brief question, she will respond with a lengthy message or a long phone conversation, and she is always able to give me very beneficial information. She suggests helpful books to purchase, and she stresses the importance of speed building. Not only that, but she is always telling me to stay positive because I am so close to becoming a court reporter, and she reminds me to work very hard and stay persistent. My court reporting instructor has been great at addressing my areas of strength and weakness in a way that is both constructive and encouraging. In fact, her critiques often help my stress because they give me the opportunity to focus on very specific areas that need more attention. I know that she will always provide me with information that will allow me to make necessary changes. A discussion with her fills me with such relief as she reminds me of all the strides that I have made in my speed building. In particular, my aunt, who is a freelance reporter, has been a wonderful mentor to me. She has given me so many of her briefs and textbooks that once helped her as a student. She never hesitates to take the time out of her busy schedule to meet with me and see how I am progressing in my work. When my writer suddenly needed to be repaired, she lent me her student writer in a moment's notice. She is always giving me great advice in regard to which reporting firms to work for, when to intern, and how to make better use of my practice time. Not only that, but she has been very open about her past experiences as a student and has not been shy about telling me how difficult and discouraging being a court reporting student can be. She has told me that many students worry about the length of time it will take them to finish school, and many think about whether or not it will all be worth it. She assures me that these are all normal feelings to have, and that with time all the hard work will surely pay off. For a student to hear that is a huge relief. It is great to know that many reporters have felt discouraged at one time or another, but they were ultimately able to achieve their goals and are very happy in this respected profession. Knowing that these successful men and women have gone through what I am currently enduring really puts me at ease. I feel lucky to have had such amazing experiences with these reporters. I believe that every student needs to have a reporter or reporters who can mentor and guide them. It can really change your outlook and push you to achieve. Let's get back to some jury charge practice. Ready? If the answer to number 11 is in the affirmative, how was such request transmitted to you by defendant Kenneth Anderson? If the answer to number 7 is in the affirmative, were such repairs or improvements made with the knowledge and express consent of defendant Kenneth Anderson? 14. If the answer to number 13 is in the affirmative, how was said consent transmitted to you by defendant Kenneth Anderson? 15. State the use made of said machine by you or under your direction and consent. 16. State the total gross receipts received by you from use of said machine since date of purchase. 17. State total expenses attributed to the jobs on which you said machine was used. 18. State the total gross profits earned by you from said machine. 19. List the payments made by you to defendant Kenneth Anderson as his share of the gross profits from the use of said machine. 20. State what evidence you have that defendant Kenneth Anderson received each of the payments referred to in number 19. 21. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? 22. If the answer to number 21 is in the affirmative, list the date and court of conviction, together with the crime of which you were convicted. 23. Is Gertrude Nixon, the plaintiff, your wife? 24. State the total, complete, and exact consideration given or delivered to you by plaintiff Gertrude Nixon for the assignment of your alleged claim against defendant Kenneth Anderson. All right, let's get started with this literary, and it's actually about camping. The title is The Clan of the Canvas. A group of families builds generational bonds through camping. Ready? For each trip, we planned at least one group hike and one group excursion, rafting on the Kern River, banana boating on Bass Lake, horseback riding at Mammoth Lakes, to name a few. Each provided a thrill, made more fun because it was experienced with like-minded adventurers. Just as meaningful was downtime at the campsite. Away from schedules and cell phones, we discovered or rediscovered simple pleasures. Skipping rocks, climbing trees, digging holes in the sand, playing cards, naps, and in the evenings we gathered around the campfire for singing, stories, skits, and s'mores. All right, we will get back to that, but for now, that will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.